World War III, we haven't really touched on the Iran-Israel thing going on right now, and I'll tell you why. Foreign policy is complicated. Everybody loves to make everything simple, but foreign policy is the most complicated thing in the world. Different parties, different countries, different interests, it's never as simple as someone is making it out to be. What is actually happening and where might all this go? Let's ask Steve about all this. Joining me now, my friend Steve Deace, who on top of his show has a wonderful book out there right now called Richie Meets the Rainbow. Highly recommend you pick that one up for the old kiddos. All right, Steve. Israel appears to be beating the living crap out of Iran. Is this World War III? Where's all this going? What are we going to do? What are the players? Talk about it.
We don't know. I think what you just said a minute ago is so vital, and I've been trying to express it to my own audience in the last week or so, Jesse. I think even a lot of our own people that follow shows like ours, which are going to be some of the more informed people in the country, probably don't understand that most of the Arab Muslim world, and I use that term on purpose, Iran is not an Arab country. Most of the Arab Muslim world also does not like Iran, also does not want Iran to have a nuclear arsenal, maybe for different reasons than the Israelis. But in this case, I think they're kind of fine up to a point. You know, they're kind of fine letting Israel come in and fire Cousin Eddie. The Griswold, Clark doesn't want Cousin Eddie. That's kind of Iran to the Arab world. They don't want Cousin Eddie moving into the house either, okay? They think he's weird too. Not necessarily fond of Israel, but they don't like Cousin Eddie either. They just don't want to be seen as firing Cousin Eddie because they're still both Griswolds. See, let a third party come in and maybe fire them instead. And I think the devastating effect of this offensive preemptive strike, it might be the most devastating preemptive strike the world has seen maybe since Blitzkrieg. I think that it has so knocked the Iranians off kilter that I also think maybe some other entities like Hezbollah and others that might have been wanting to try to capitalize on this are like, oh, that could be us next. Now, this will not be an unlimited meter, however, that the Israelis have, right? So right now they have the upper hand. Right now they are dictating terms. But there does come a point here where the psychology, because this is also very complicated, the psychology does change and alter. So far, the Israelis have avoided a lot of mass civilian casualties. And I think if you're, whichever the two camps you're in, right? We can't do any more stupid wars, so it's just that simple camp, or Israel's our friend, so we got to do whatever they want us to do. It's neither of those camps things are very simple for. So this is going to kind of determine the law of unintended consequences and what happens after this that we cannot foresee is kind of going to determine, I think, the nature of the U.S.-Israeli relationship moving forward. But I think a lot of that are things that we still don't know yet.
Steve, one thing that I found interesting, not necessarily surprising for a lot of the reasons you just laid out, but interesting is the lack of friends Iran apparently has now that they're down. I mean, this is a country that's conducted military drills with Russia and China. We know there's all kinds of business that crosses borders back and forth between all these countries. We know about how many terrorist groups they sponsor. And all of a sudden, Israel takes out a few generals and Iran wakes up and they're fresh out of friends. Is it just that everyone's kind of done with the Ayatollah?
I think that's part of it for sure. You know, there's the old JFK saying, you know, victory has 1,000 fathers and defeat is an orphan. If there had been scores of civilian casualties opening night, Jesse, and if this thing did not go off with the level of precision and panache that it did, I think some of those countries you just mentioned would have been more interested in using this as a vehicle by which to get involved. But again, we still have the law of unintended consequences here. I know that the followers of you and I are watching big name people on both sides of this on the right go at each other by name, tear each other apart, calling each other various forms of traitor. All right, but I just don't think things are as simple as either one of the leaders of these respective camps seem to think that they are. For example, China's not really facing yet the full brunt of the fact that it buys about 80% of Iran's foreign oil that it exports every year. All right, that's about 20% of China's petro supply it gets from Iran. It's also in the middle of a trade war with Donald Trump right now. You know, the last time that China felt the squeeze squeeze of a trade war, and also was feeling economic hardship with all the uprisings that were going on in Shanghai and Hong Kong, they unleashed a virus on the rest of the world. So the idea that they're just going to sit there and say, you know what, we're fine, having a 20% hit the supply chain, and therefore the cost of oil becomes more prohibitive to us, I don't think that's accurate. On the other hand, if you're in the other group that said, well, if Israel ever struck Iran, all these BRICS nations would show up and World War III would happen day one. We're on day 4 of this, and that has yet to happen yet, as you just said. I think, though, it is way too early for either one of these sides to take a victory lap. Who should take a victory lap are the Israelis. What they have pulled off here, again, it's maybe the most devastating preemptive strike we have seen in the history of modern warfare, and it has certainly reset the board in the Middle East, but that board is not settled yet.
One thing I'm finding very, very fascinating is Trump versus some other powerful people in our government. Here was Lindsey Graham on the news.
If diplomacy is not successful and we left with the option of force, I would urge President Trump to go all in to make sure that when this operation is over, there's nothing left standing in Iran regarding their nuclear program. If that means providing bombs, provide bombs. If that means
busting bombs,
whatever bombs. If it means flying with Israel, fly with Israel. The worst possible outcome for the world is to take the Iranian nuclear program on and leave it standing. That will be a disaster.
Well, it's no surprise to anybody that Lindsey Graham is foaming at the mouth. At least I think that was foam coming out of his mouth about the whole thing. But Trump seems to be out there still wanting to make a deal, I guess. It almost seems like these two get crossways foreign policy-wise a lot.
Well, you know what? I'm going to be like a lot of Lindsey Graham's friends, and I'm going to go both ways on this one, Jesse. There's part of what Lindsey said that I do agree with, which is you cannot do this halfway. All right, this cannot be Israel just does just the tip in Iran. That's not going to work. All right, and that level of weakness is what will then summon Iran's partners that right now are also pretty shaken by the level of devastation and precision they've seen from the Israelis. And so since this amount of calculus was made by Bibi and the government of Israel, then at this point, I think they should go all the way until whatever remnants are reachable of the Iranian nuclear program, they'll get no points later for showing up and pulling out too prematurely. At this point, finish the job is what I would urge. But where I would disagree with Lindsey is if I were advising President Trump, brother, you're getting the best of both worlds right now. Right? I mean, we have had this dilemma that we've been arguing on the right since Trump took office, right? And very high, as I just said, very high profile thought leaders on our side are arguing this out amongst themselves vehemently right now, right? We all agree on two things. We do not want any more stupid wars in the Middle East, and Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And so what is the possible way to accomplish one of those without the other one? Well, to me, you're kind of on a path of potentially accomplishing that right now. Israel is willing to be the bad guy. To me, and at that point, it doesn't cost Trump anything at all. He's not risking any of the amount of capital, which is substantial and significant, that he's built up in the Middle East. In fact, a lot of these Arab Muslim countries are actually shooting down Iranian drones. Even Turkey is shooting down Iranian drones as we speak. All right. So at this point, Trump has the best of both worlds here. Israel is taking on the full brunt of this in terms of culpability. At the same time, if it works, Trump will be able to declare victory later. And then if it doesn't, he'll be able to claim plausible deniability. I would urge him to actually stay on that path. If Israel is willing to take on the full brunt of responsibility for this, let them.
Steve, talk to me about Richie meeting the rainbow.
Well, we just had Father's Day. Jesse, I don't know if you noticed, I'm sure you have. Dads don't get to be the hero a lot in our culture today. So I wanted to do something about that with Richie Meets the Rainbow. And a dad gets to be the hero when his son comes home from school after being or attempted to be indoctrinated by the blue-haired trainee teacher that he's got in class. Except this blue-haired trainee teacher runs into something that is just too scarce in our culture today, a dad. And dad steps in on behalf of his son. It rhymes like Dr. Seuss, and we make fun of evil, which it hates the most. At the same time, we confront it. So it's called Richie Meets the Rainbow. You were kind enough to give it an endorsement, brother, which I greatly appreciate. It's available at Amazon right now. Richie Meets the Rainbow.
Go pick it up, people. I appreciate it. Appreciate you very much, Steve. Come back, brother. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.